This is the Rick and Suzanne Show on CJAD 800. Sitting in today, Kim Fraser.
CJAD time is 2:08. So how stressed are your kids? A lot more stressed than you may think they are. According to the annual Stress in America survey, which was recently released, they included for the first time young people between the ages of 8 and 17 rather, and a significant number of them report stress about doing well at school, stress about whether or not their family had enough money, and the third thing was stress because they had so much to do. The days of, lying around, going to your parents, I'm bored, have passed and gone the way of the bustle and spats. So we're going to find out, how can you tell if this is causing stress for your children and what you can do about it. Jeremy Schneider is a therapist specializing in parenting and relationships. He's also a columnist, and he's on the line with us now. Hi.
Hi, Kim. How are you?
So, you know what? It's so surprising to find out that parents underestimate the level of their children's stress.
I think it's actually a kind of a combination of two things. They do underestimate the level of their stress, but they are so worried at the same time that they're not stimulating their children enough, they're not giving their children enough things to do, that they kind of end up falling on that side more than worrying about how stressed their kids really are.
Yeah, well, I guess we just don't associate stress with childhood. It's like, what do you got to be worried about?
I know. I think the reality is that any of us can get stressed, from little kids to, as old as we can get. And I think that, unfortunately, our world gets a little crazier every year, and it's a little bit easier to feel the stress. And the less time we have, either as adults or as kids, to kind of process it, experience it, release it, express it, that it just builds up and carries on with us wherever we go.
Well, and before we get to, the whole fact that parenting has become an extreme sport these days, I want to talk about the parents' stress. Because if parents are stressed, is this something that our children pick up on and assimilate?
Absolutely. I mean, there have been some recent studies that were done recently that I was reading about that talk about stress as essentially infectious. And that, one of the things that we're starting to tell parents more and more is that not only is it so important for parents to manage their own stress for their own health, right, but we need to manage our own stress as parents in order to be able to reduce some of the stress our kids experience. We live together. Our lives are so completely intertwined with our children's that if we're miserable, it's really easy for our kids to feel that misery as well. And when we're stressed, even if we don't feel depressed, but when we're stressed, our kids feel that stress too, and it weighs on them as well. And so not only when we teach ourselves about taking care of ourselves, being good to ourselves, letting ourselves off the hook a little bit for all the things that we don't do exactly right, we're also teaching our kids to do the same thing, and they then get a chance to learn, wait a second, maybe everything isn't life or death. Maybe the A isn't the end-all and be-all. Maybe, scoring a goal isn't the most important thing in my life. And that's a great lesson to teach not only ourselves but our kids.
Okay, one of the things that surprised me about this survey was, obviously, number one source of stress for kids was doing well in school, which I remember that, from when I was a kid.
Right.
But the second one, for both age groups, 8 to 12 and 13 to 17, was the issue of whether or not the family had enough money. And I wonder, is it a mistake as parents? I used to do this to the kids all the time. They'd ask me for something. I go, no, we can't afford it. Is it a mistake for us as parents to be talking about money, worrying about money around our kids?
I say this a lot when I talk to people about this. I mean, parenting is so much about finding the balance. I actually, before today, we went to the grocery store, and I was showing my kids how much things cost because I want them to understand the value of money. I want them to think about, oh, wait, this is, $10, but that is $13. We're going to get the thing that's $10. I don't want them to worry about how we're going to pay the mortgage. I don't want them to worry about car payments. I don't want them to worry about money, but I want them to understand that there's a value of money. So, yes, if we're in a difficult monetary situation, I'm not going to share that with my kids, and I don't think that's something that they need to be too concerned about. But do they need to be aware, particularly during the holidays when they get so many presents, what the value of things are? I think they do, and I think that helps them to understand and be appreciative of what they're receiving and of what they already have.
Okay, so we're taking a look at kind of the two things that are, sort of contribute to baseline stress among kids. And then there's the stress that parents like to impose because we want to do a good job. We're hyper parents, parenting has become an extreme sport. And this is making sure, the well-rounded child can play a musical instrument, they're involved in sports, maybe they're doing something on an academic level. All of this scheduling can really be hard on a kid.
Absolutely. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I played sports. I didn't do an instrument. I didn't have any other extracurricular activities, and I thought that was a pretty big deal. And, I was excited to put that on my college application. I mean, now we hear stories and we read articles and we listen to other parents talk about, preparing their kids for college when they're still in middle school. And it just seems a little, like you said, it's this extreme parenting. It just seems a little much, right? And we wonder why our kids are feeling more stress. It's because they're worrying about their future at such an earlier time than they ever really had to. What happened to free play? What happened to hanging out, just having fun for the sake of having fun?
Well, because there's a pedophile behind every bush, so that's why no one can go to the park. Okay, coming up, I want to ask you if you can maybe give us some signs that your child is too busy. Some of the ways that kids act out that, are telling us, and we might not be listening, that it's time to ramp it back. CJAD time is 2:15. We're speaking with Jeremy Schneider, who's a therapist, specializes in parenting and relationships as a columnist, about how to kind of de-stress your kid's life. But first, I don't know how much stress he's living. Michelle Boyer at the CJAD Lakekeeper All-Day Traffic Center. Is it stressful for motorists today?
I'd rather be here than in the car on the Met West right now. Really busy, pretty much from Peanuff over to DeCarry. Metropolitan eastbound, that's from DeCarry over to the Laurentian Auto Route. It's really slow because of basically that ramp onto the Laurentian Auto Route northbound. DeCarry northbound, we did have an accident around the 40. It's been cleared, damage done. You have volume, Monkland right up to the top, and really tough go getting over to the U.S., at the Champlain border crossing. That'll cost you 25 minutes. Also another 25 minutes at Highgate Springs, and Derby Line is costing you 10. If you spot anything, come play with me in the traffic center. Would love to hear from you and for you to be part of our team. Star 800 is our number. That is a free call thanks to Bell Mobility. Till December 31st only, Sports Experts is cutting up to 50% off the ticket price on alpine ski and snowboard equipment, excluding already marked down items. Hurry into Sports Experts for the best year-end sale. Montreal's most trusted traffic and transit every 15 minutes, only on CJAD 800. Your next report is coming up at 2:30.
There are two ways you can survive a Montreal storm. Get out of the way, or get informed. Let us guide you. Traffic, transit, Montreal's only official school closures list. CJAD 800 Stormwatch, and online at CJAD.com.
Buying or selling a home in the West Island and want the best? Experience the Deacon difference. For over 25 years, our community has trusted Deacon Realty to help with all their real estate needs. The Deacon team provides guidance and personalized solutions in a caring and effective manner. If you're thinking about a move, or if you just need some good advice, visit deaconrealty.ca or call 514-695-2575. That's 514-695-2575.
Looking for that special gift to brighten your home? Hi, this is Elder Gemst of Gemst Framing and Gallery. We've got gorgeous paintings by Sarah Peck Colby, Rita Briansky, and many others on display. Come check them out, and while you're here, take a look at our vast selection of custom framing choices. Come see us on Parry at DeCarry. Gemst, where framing is an art.
Buying or selling a home means an inspection. If a foundation crack is found and needs to be repaired, you call Injection Classique. Fully licensed and offering a 10-year transferable warranty. Free estimates. Call Injection Classique, 514-421-7138.
This is Aaron Rand for Holland Chrysler and Holland Fiat, and I'd like to just take a minute on behalf of the staff there to wish all their customers a very happy very healthy, and very prosperous new year in 2012, and to say thank you for making Holland Chrysler and Holland Fiat have such a great year in 2011. To all of their customers, all the best for the holidays, and we'll see you there in 2012. Holland Chrysler, Holland Fiat, DeCarry at Ferrier, Montreal's best Chrysler and Fiat dealer.
Relevant, connected, great conversation. This is the Rick and Suzanne Show on CJAD 800. Sitting in today, Kim Fraser.
Talking about stressed out kids. Kids today are more stressed than ever, and what we can do to prevent that. One thing that we've learned is that kids will pick up on their parents' stress levels. So how you handle stress is watched very closely by your kids. We're speaking with Jeremy Schneider, who's a therapist, specializes in parenting and relationships. He's a columnist. And talking about sort of scheduling kids, getting them involved in all kinds of activities. And you're saying that free play, free time, downtime is really important for kids. How can we tell that we've gone overboard?
I think there's a few things that that we can realize. First of all, obviously one of the biggest ones is if we start to notice our kids' school effort decline, right? If they're starting to have more trouble at school, if their grades aren't going as well, sometimes that can be kind of a gradual thing over time, and sometimes it can happen quite dramatically. But I think some of the other signs is you're going to notice things about their behavior. So certainly another big one is sleeping. So much of our kids' worries, our kids' stress come out at night, right? Either just before they go to sleep, maybe they're procrastinating, maybe they're anxious about going to sleep, so you put them into bed, but then they climb back out again, and can I have a drink of water? Can I have this? Can you talk to me one more time? Can I have another hug? Maybe they are able to articulate their worries and let you know what they're worried about, whether it's school or whether it's the activities or something. Sometimes it can just be nightmares. They wake up in the middle of the night having nightmares because they're just so much pressure, so much stress that they're experiencing because they're running around so much without the chance to kind of decompress a little bit in the same way that we all need to.
Isn't that interesting? Are there kind of sort of common themes in nightmares? There are, I think certainly some of them are a sense of helplessness, right? It depends on how it is. But, somehow you can see the sense of, whether it's your girl, your boy, feeling kind of helpless within the dream. Something is happening and they can't make it stop. Or if they have the same kind of dream over and over again, it's that same kind of feeling, right? If you can't make the dream stop, there's this sense of kind of helplessness over it. And that it doesn't always mean this, but it certainly could kind of match the way they feel about their schedule, about their life right now. Okay. Are some kids more prone to developing this than others? The sleep problems?
Yes, I think they certainly are, but it's going to be hard to tell just by looking at them.
Okay.
I think if your child has had sleep issues in the past, for instance, as they've changed from developmental phase in their life, for instance, leaving diapering, starting to use the toilet, for instance, can be a kind of a scary adjustment for kids. If they developed sleeping problems at that point, then maybe that is a sign that they're more prone to having sleeping issues as they get older in terms of dealing with stress and things like that.
Okay. What about stressed kids? Are they more prone to, tantrums or lashing out?
Absolutely. I mean, if you think about it as this, without the free time, without the downtime, our emotions get just kind of bottled up and bottled up and bottled up. And at some point, even as adults, right, we find ourselves just kind of lashing out or saying something stupid or getting mad at someone at work when we know we really shouldn't. I mean, it's the same thing that our kids go through. So they're going from one activity to another activity to another activity without a chance to kind of go, without being able to take a breath, without being able to relax. Those emotions build up inside them, and the smallest things can just make them explode and lash out. They can have these emotional outbursts. They can have temper tantrums, particularly as they reach, later elementary school, middle school, when you don't really expect them to have these tantrums anymore, but it almost seems like they're regressing a little bit just because they're so kind of overwhelmed by their emotions, and they're not sure how to deal with it all.
And are there, physical things like headaches, tummy aches, that kind of thing?
There certainly are. I mean, again, it depends a lot on the child, but, even I as a kid, I can remember having stomach aches when I was worried and anxious about stuff, and I noticed that in so many kids when they're worried about things. Sometimes it's headaches. Sometimes it's just even when they get hurt, things hurt more than it seems like it should, because it's kind of like that's their chance to release some of their upsetness, their sadness, their pain.
Okay. So coming up, I want to talk about, what we can do to alleviate stress. The other thing I'd like to address with you is just how stressful daycare is for young children, because they can be long stretches of time in an institutional setting where they have to negotiate with, a group of other kids, whether it's over toys or resources. That's next.
There's only one place to be to score massive Boxing Week savings, and that place is Sears. All week, get incredible savings across the entire store. Use your Sears financial credit card and save an extra 50% off clearance-priced fashions. That's a total savings of up to 85% off original ticketed prices. Plus, get great deals on electronics, like $120 off a Samsung 32-inch LED TV, now just $379.99. For massive Boxing Week savings, there's only one place to be, this week at Sears.
A magical holiday celebration at Chateau Vaudreuil. It's the place for private dining, holiday gatherings, or a gala. Dinner and dance with a trio band. Visit their website at chateau-vaudreuil.com.
J.J. Cardinal Funeral Homes, the family company that began in 1973, continues to grow and go with the times. What has never changed is the personal care and warmth the Cardinal family provides. A family serving families with the experience and character to help through difficult times. Visit J.J. Cardinal Funeral Homes, their chapels, unique columbarium, and cremation on site. J.J. Cardinal Funeral Homes in Dorval and Lachine. Call 514-631-1511.
It's Boxing Days at La Boutique Electronique, and everything is priced so low, some of it is making history. TVs, stereos, and home theaters all at blowout prices. Save on everything in home electronics. Get to La Boutique Electronique and score an amazing Samsung 51-inch plasma TV at the historic low price of only $498. Boxing Days ends New Year's Eve, and quantities are limited. Hurry in. La Boutique Electronique, sources north of the Tecan. Toys for grown-ups.
Join the #1 window covering franchise. Budget Blinds of California is now for sale in Quebec. Low investment, strong earnings claim. Ask about Discovery Day, a free 2-day trip to corporate headquarters in California. For more information, call Robert Brumer Global Franchise Group at 514-387-6565.
Relevant, connected, great conversation. This is the Rick and Suzanne Show on CJAD 800. Sitting in today, Kim Fraser.
CJD time is 2:26. Coming up after 2:30, another snowmobiler is dead. And basically, in this province, if you want to operate a snowmobile, you got to have two things. You got to be 18, and you have to have a pulse. So we'll see from you if you think that maybe it should be a little more difficult. Right now, though, talking about children and managing stress, Jeremy Schneider is a therapist specializing in parenting and relationships. He's a columnist. And we're talking about some of the sources of stress for kids, how you can tell that they're stressed. I wanted to ask you about daycare, Jeremy, because here in Quebec, we have subsidized daycare at $7 a day. So needless to say, there are a lot of kids in daycare. For young children to be in that kind of institutional setting, is that a stressful thing for them?
It's interesting. I mean, my wife and I made the choice that she was going to stay home with the kids, with our kids, for the first few years. And I think that made a huge difference with them. But I've done a lot of research on this, and one of the things that we're learning about is that daycare actually doesn't cause any sort of harm that I think a lot of people get worried about. And so I think if you compare between daycare and a chance to be home with your child, if you have the chance to be home with your child, there's certainly advantages to that. But in terms of their future health, their future development, their brain development, daycare really is actually quite good for kids. And so, I think that if we're sending our kids to daycare, and particularly you feel comfortable with that place and you know some of the people there that are looking out for your children, that you're probably doing a good thing for them anyway.
Okay. So how do we kind of determine, is there kind of a guideline, like they have homework guidelines for kids of certain ages? Are there sort of activity guidelines for young kids?
There aren't. What I talk to people about is certainly if your kids are doing something every day, that's probably too much, If you're doing more than 1 to 2 hours of additional activities after school, that's probably quite a bit as well, too. You just want to remember that it's not so much of what they can do, because we can keep pushing our kids to do as much as we want them to do. It's more of what kind of impact do we want to have on them, and what do we really want them to get out of it? And do we want them to get a good experience? Do we want them to be well-rounded? Or are we really worrying about college already and whether they're going to be some sort of future star? And so I think it's more about how do we help them be the kind of person, the kind of adult that we hope that they will be in the future. And I think with that comes this ability to manage their time and to manage their stress in a way that's healthy for them. And sometimes that may mean that we have to learn how to do that first.
Well, and I'm thinking of downtime. Is downtime really playing video games, or is it, staring off into space? As I think a lot of us have made sort of our best discoveries about ourselves when we were well and truly bored.
Yes.
Yeah, and
reading a book, playing with a toy, doing something that allowed our imaginations to flourish.
Well, that sounds great. Jeremy, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Jeremy Schneider is a therapist specializing in parenting and relationships. He's a columnist. You can read him at parentcentral.ca.